right, let's set the scene. It's 1970-ish, New York City, deep in the boroughs. The music scene's real heavy, and today's guest lived that to the fullest. But before we get into all that, of course, I got a handful of things I want to throw your way. This is one of two different types of episodes I do. This is a full-length episode, and we got Jay from New York City in, and goes 60 to 90 minutes long, and the topics vary. You're going to really love this episode. This dude is cool as shit. And then on opposite weeks, I got B-Raw Bites is what I call them, and they're 10 to 15, maybe 20 minutes long about shit that I think you need to hear. And those topics range drastically as well. It might be story, whatever's in my heart and my mind, no notes. I just rant in the mic for 15, 20 minutes. I'm a one-man band, so everything that you see with this logo on it and the stuff that I put out, I do everything. It's me all the time. Of course, you know, I get help with apps and programs and that kind of thing, but I'm the only person doing it. So I'm asking for a little bit of help. What I'd like you to do, whatever platform that you're listening to this on, jump over, throw up a 5-star review, write a review, each episode if you could. That would be amazing. And I'm trying to build up the YouTube community, so I'd love for you to like, subscribe, share, all that other shit that everybody tells you about. And then, of course, you know, tell a friend or 7. And then everything you need to know about the show is over on the old website, brawpodcast.com. Links, other shows I've been on, all the episodes, everywhere you can listen, merch, blogs. I've been throwing up some blogs. I've been having a lot of fun with those. Love for you to check those out. Again, brawpodcast.com. Everything you need to know about it. Sign up for the newsletter. And I want to give a huge B-Raw Nation welcome to the guys over at Composure. They make pre-workout. If you've been following me for a long time, I go to the gym quite a bit. I like my pre-workout, but I realized over the summer, getting some medical stuff done, everything's cool. Got green lights all the way around. Thanks for worrying about me, if you were. But anyway, I changed it up a little bit. I'm not doing the 500-600 milligrams of pre-workout anymore. These guys cut it down. It gives you about a cup of coffee or two. Just a little boost, you know, a little kick in the ass when you get going in the morning, focus. And then what I like about it is, it's kind of like drinking an energy drink, but without all the shit in it. So if you're going to go into a meeting, you're going to go play sports with the boys, little football, some hockey, whatever you guys do, pick up basketball, want to go for a hike or a little bike ride or something, you want a little focus, a little extra energy, check this stuff out. Of course, the link is in the show notes. And these guys, you make sure you just give them a ton of shit for me while you're over there. And of course, Craig over at High Speed Daddy, he makes all sorts of great gear for active lifestyles, parenting. Awesome dude. Check that stuff out. Charmaine down in Arizona, Live Rishi, high quality CBD product. I use both these products, well, all 3 of these products now on the regular. All right, these guys, all 3 of them, small businesses, would love your support. I would appreciate it if you show them some love. I'm a big fan of small business. What they're doing with building communities and the messages they get out, I'm very honored to be part of that. So, links in the show notes. Give him shit when you're over there for me. All right, let's get on to the show. Jay Messina. This dude lived through the 70s and 80s and a little bit of the 60s in New York City in the music scene. He's going to drop some big names like it's no big deal. He's just an all-around cool dude, and I truly, truly enjoyed hanging out with him. And I see him quite a bit because he runs in the same circles I do, and I just always enjoy having him around. How he became a producer, and when he gets talking about making records and 8 tracks, it's awesome. It was so much fun. But you know what? I'm going to let him tell you all about it. Let's get to it. You being a sound guy and all, allegedly, is what I hear. But you've had your share of sound engineering, huh?
I'd say so.
Oh. Fuck, here we go. Oh, God, it's starting already. I love it, dude. I love it. So I'm always looking to improve. And I had a video company. I don't know if you knew. I had a video company for a while. And,
I remember.
And I learned quickly that sound is key to everything. Your visual and your imagery could be kind of squirmish, but if the sound is on point, you're good. But if your video is on point, your sound is kind of skirmish, you ain't going nowhere, dude.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think they say that most of your information that you take in is through your eyes. So I don't know if I go along with that 100%. But
Really?
yeah, you're right to a certain extent, for sure.
Yeah, but do you think that you get more feeling from hearing than you do seeing? Like you get more emotion? So don't you think that? Well, no, no.
Well, it depends
That's
on what the video is. If you have a good video, you can get lots of information and emotion across that way.
Yeah, and then like a good piece of art, right? You got a good painting or something. A lot of emotion flies around in that too. Wow,
Absolutely, yeah.
See, I just think the whole world is like me and just more of an audio guy. So
yeah, well, both. All of the senses are great. Where would we be without our sense of taste? All the good food that we eat.
Oh yeah, you being in New York City too, right?
That's right.
But I did. So we were talking about intros to my show, and what you'll see is I do a custom intro before I edit it in, and then I added something kind of fun. The last 3 episodes, and I've been adding it to each. So it starts with music. So once you turn it on, like you're in your car or something, and you turn it on, it just doesn't start with me talking. There's a little bit of music, and then I put in a record scratch, and then I start talking, and then of course I have music underneath my voice as well. But I thought that was kind of fun, and I've been getting a lot of good feedback from it.
But is your primary medium visual and audio?
Audio. It's probably 80-20 audio.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason I like this video part is because it's conversation, right? And if I can see you, going back to our senses, I can see you, I can hear you, I can see your body language and that kind of thing. So I believe that it helps with conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I put them on YouTube because I'm recording it anyway on a video, so I might as well dump it on YouTube.
Yeah.
But then I cut it up in little tiny pieces and put them on little shorts all over the internet.
So. When it's on YouTube, is it under your name or is it under B Raw?
Yeah, it's under B Raw. My YouTube channel's B Raw Podcast.
Gotcha.
Anything with, I don't have anything in social media with my name on it anymore. Mm-hmm. I do everything under the brand. So
probably a good idea.
Yeah, and I mix in personal stuff with the brand, just because people like to see, they feel connected when they see some personal stuff.
Yeah.
And it's funny. A guy told me not too long ago. He's like, "Man, you post so much stuff on social media, man. Don't you have any privacy?" And I was like, "Bro, you probably are seeing 2% of my life.
Yeah.
You don't see hardly any of my life on social media. You see stuff and you think that that's all I'm doing." I'm like, "Man, I spent 4 days on vacation. You saw one picture."
Yeah.
But man, in New York City. So I'm going to go back to trolling you.
Okay.
We met, how long ago did we met? We met about a decade ago, right?
Yeah, I'd say. That sounds about right.
And immediately I was like, this is a cool dude right here. You got a vibe about you, bud. Uh-huh. And I enjoy talking with you. And I knew what you did for a living or what you have done a little bit, but I just always enjoyed your company. And when I started the show, I kind of went down this hit list and you've been on it. So I was talking to Val tonight, and people listening don't know Val's my wife, and she knows you obviously, and your beautiful wife. And she's like, "Do you know that Jay did this and that and this?" And she starts ripping all this stuff off, and I was like, "No, what? I knew he was in the business, but are you kidding me?" So I did a little trolling, dude. Okay. And I found this black and white picture of you back in the day with curly hair.
With some hair? Oh, yeah.
Dude, that's pretty sweet. I got to give that to you, man.
Okay.
That one picture says a lot. I was like, yep, that's Jay.
Was it in
Yep.
a studio somewhere?
Yeah. It was a studio. I posted a story about our recording tonight, and I tagged you on it. But
Okay.
I don't know how much you're on there.
Yeah, on Facebook, you mean?
Instagram.
Oh, Instagram.
Yep. I put it on my.
Hardly ever.
Okay, I put it on my B-Raw Facebook
Oh, okay.
page. So if you want to jump on there, you'll see it.
Yeah, I will.
But so you got it, dude. How did you get into the audio business?
Well, when I was 8 years old, my father used to play bass, and so his band was Vibes, vibraphone, like right here,
Okay.
bass. He played bass and guitar. So he bought me a little set of orchestra bells, kind of like a glockenspiel, you know, and I started studying that, and I started taking xylophone lessons. And then when I turned 9, he took me on one of his gigs, and he got me to play, and I'm playing, and then I happened to look up, and everybody had stopped dancing because of this little kid playing. And I looked up, and I saw everybody looking at me, and I just froze right there. And but that's how I got started. And then, you know, my father always told me, get into electronics, keep music on the side. So I'm in a great place now. I got kind of in with like electronics and music. It's a good combination.
And then as you went through school and everything, you were always part of a band. And did you have like your own garage band and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I played in a band all through high school. Always had a little extra cash from playing weddings and dances and stuff.
What kind of music was it?
It was more like, it was kind of like jazz, but danceable jazz, not like bebop or anything. We played a lot of standards.
Like,
You know, Foggy Day and Tea for Two. You know, those kind of old standards.
that's awesome. And so I have a very vague. Let me see how I can say it. Very vague imagery of your client list. You want to brag about that or no?
Well, I worked with some really cool people, and it's you know, I feel really fortunate about it. And you know, I did a bunch of Aerosmith records, and I did 3 Kiss records. You know, you were talking about interviews before. I just did an interview yesterday. A guy is writing a book, and he wanted to interview me. He's doing a book on Ace Frehley from Kiss. So since I know Ace, and I'm pretty friendly with him, and I worked on the records with him, this guy interviewed me. You know, it was just yesterday.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now does the Ace still living? Where's he? Is he still around in New York City, or is
he's in Jersey now? He's living in New Jersey.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
He's your neighbor.
Yeah, that'd be funny, wouldn't it? That'd be amazing. You wouldn't even know, dude. He'd probably come over and borrow my screwdriver, and I wouldn't even know who the hell he was. That's awesome. But like, how did you go from a garage band to knowing all these people? I mean, was it like a fluke, a switch, or just kind of grew into it? Like, how did that happen?
It's kind of an interesting lesson in trusting your gut. I graduated RCA Institutes, which was a technical school, where basically when I graduated from there, there's an industry that's really no longer exists, but I would have been like a qualified radio TV repairman, you know,
Okay.
back then.
Yeah.
So I graduated, and I had a job that I was going to start like on a Monday, and it was at a company that made test equipment. And my job was going to be like to test every 3rd or 4th meter, make sure it worked. You know, it was like in quality control, a real dry, boring kind of job. But it was, you know, it was a gig. But the night before, I was hanging out with a friend of mine who was an engineer for his cousin. And he was a talented singer and writer. So he wanted to have more time to write. and sing, do commercials. So he says to me, "Hey, do you want to be an engineer?" I first I said, "What's that?" Then I said, I got a job. I'm starting tomorrow." He says, "Quit." He says, "I could give you $25 a week for food, but it'll be a lot of fun. You'll like it." And so that's what I did. He was a friend of mine, and I trusted him. I went with my gut, and I walked into this studio the next day. First, I called up my other job and told them I quit before I even started. But walking into Don Elliott's studio, the first studio I worked at, this is in the middle 60s, he had Les Paul's 8-track machine, 1-inch 8-track machine that he made all those records with Mary Ford from back, I guess, in the 50s. So, and that was my first, introduction into recording. And after I was there just a month, we had a job. It was going to be my first session, and I was going to do it with my friend David Lucas. And it was Ravi Shankar.
I don't know who that is.
He's when the Beatles went to India, they hooked up with him.
Oh, okay.
He was like a guy that he would play, he played the sitar. But he was always like a spiritual guy, and the Beatles like, wow, we got to meet this guy. Mm-hmm. So he was going to play, and they were going to play to a film, a kind of a psychedelic film. This is middle 60s, so all of that was like a trippy kind of stuff. And so the guy that owned the studio, my friend David's cousin, said, "A doctor is going to pay for this at the end of the night. Just tell him what the how many hours and what the cost will be, and he'll give you a check." So at the end of the night, I went to this doctor, and he signs the check, Dr. Timothy Leary. And this is before, well, you Google him. Timothy Leary was, back then it was about 2 years before he came on the scene as being a professor, a college professor that believed in taking LSD.
Oh,
that was him. And this is about 2 years before he really came on the scene, because I didn't know who he was. It was just a doctor to me. Mm-hmm. And he paid the bill that night.
And that was your first gig, like your first solo gig, like you controlled it?
Yeah. Well, it was with this guy David, because I was only there a month, but it was my first exposure to recording.
Man, talk about being thrown right in the fire, dude.
Yeah, and amazingly enough, maybe way after that, I'd say just maybe 10 years ago, maybe there was a club on the east side that I used to go to every week, because I had friends that would always play there, and Nora Jones was one of the waitresses there.
Get out of here!
And she is the daughter of Ravi Shankar.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
holy
check that one out.
So, what year was it that Nora Jones was a waitress?
Probably, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Holy cow. That's something, huh? And now you see her, what she's doing now, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. That is amazing. And then it just skyrockets from there for you, right? I mean, where's it?
Well, I started doing commercials first. Well, even before I did that, I'd go in on the weekends and bring my friends in who were all amazing musicians. So I got some good feedback, and I learned a lot from these guys. And, the Brecker brothers and Steve Gadd and all these guys that play with, Billy Joel and James Taylor now. They were my friends back then, and that's who I used to bring in the studio to practice, to hone my craft, and I'd give them like a tape copy at the end of the night so that they could hear what they've been trying to do.
So they come in and kind of jam and try new things out, and at the same time you're recording and again, like you said, honing your craft. So everybody, it works out for both of you.
Absolutely. That's exactly what happened.
Oh, that's really cool. Oh, damn. And this is all New York City, right?
Yeah.
Everything you did was in New York City. You didn't travel?
Yeah. I did. I mean, later on, that's how I got to go to Japan and China and Italy for gigs.
Ooh. Now, did you do live gigs too? Like, did you go to a concert and you were the sound guy for a live gig?
I have. I did. I finished one record here, and he was a Japanese trumpet player, a guy named Teru Masahino, huge star over there. And so when we finished the record, the band was going to go tour in Japan. So the producer asked me do I do live sound? And I said, well, where? And he said, in Japan. I said, yeah, I do live sound.
Sure. This is how much it'll cost you.
And so I was really nervous about it, and I certainly did my homework on it. But that's how I did the whole tour. I was there the first time I went to Japan. I was there for like a month. We went to like 23 different cities. So all over Japan, and then I went back the following year with the same artist. And then later on, I went with other artists and did the live sound, or I just recorded over there too.
Right. Now, did you have like an agent, or just is this word of mouth and people knew who you were and they call you and be like, hey, I heard you did this and I know you produced this and can you help me out?
No, never had an agent or a manager. It just worked out. When I first went to this other studio, after that first studio I was at, Don Elliott's, I went to a studio called A&R, which was Sinatra would record there, and all these great people. And then after that, I went to a place called Record Plant, which was the hottest studio in the country back then. And
that was in New York?
Yeah, on West 44th Street. And I forgot where were we going. Where was I going with this?
Record Plant.
When I first got to Record Plant, they wanted me to bring like the jingle clientele there, which was okay. But when I started working, I hooked up with a friend of mine there. He wasn't a friend yet, but he was like assigned to my sessions. He was an assistant engineer, a guy named Jack Douglas. And we hit it off and we became good friends. And so then when he got the opportunity to start producing, he already had a relationship with me. He liked the way I functioned as an engineer. And so he called me to do his engineering projects. So, and the first couple of major projects that he did was some early Aerosmith records. They got laid in his lap. And so he was going to produce them. And then he felt comfortable with me. So then once I started doing a couple of those, then my name kind of got around. And then from there, then I did, that's how I wound up doing some Kiss records. Just from word of mouth. Yeah,
sure. No, I get that. Now, let me back up a minute. You said bring the jingle business with you. What do you mean by that?
When I worked at, the first place that I worked at, Don Elliott's, he did a lot of commercials.
Okay.
And I'd met Mel Torme then, and Quincy Jones, and the Platters, all these great people from back then, from doing, they were involved in one way or another with some commercials. And then when I went to A&R Studios was geared primarily towards commercials. They were like a service facility. You go in and record. By 12 o'clock, you're out the door and you've got your commercial is finished, and the next day it's on the air. So when I went to record plant. Somebody invited me to go and check it out. And when I went, the first time I went, it was like walking into the coolest club in town. The lights, the shag carpet and everything. This is, early 70s. And The Who was there. And I just stopped in the control room just a little bit. And so I was really impressed with that. And so I wanted to go there. Everybody was telling me, yeah, you should go to Record Plant. That's the happening place. So one of the things they wanted from me when I went there was, because I worked at A&R, a jingle recording studio, kind of, in addition to records. They wanted me to bring that work over to Record Plant.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I thought maybe that's what it was, but I wanted to make sure. And of course, the first thing that pops in my mind when you talk about jingle is 2.5 Men. Remember that TV show?
Oh yeah, I never really got into watching it, so I don't really know what it's about.
The guy made that's what his job was. The main character, he had a piano in his house, and
okay.
He wrote jingles. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure. I thought maybe that's what it was, but. And then, how long were you at Record Plant?
I was like the chief engineer there for about 15 years.
Damn, dude.
And then I left just before it closed, and then I just did freelance, and back to doing a lot of jingles, because what happened, for me, I'd get a call, can you come to everybody had their own little studio. So I'd go around and, all the people that wrote jingles had their own recording facility. So they would hire independent engineers, and that's what I was. And so I did that for a number of years, and then I started doing, then I started traveling more, and then kind of got out of the jingle world.
Sure. Now, when you said you were starting to travel, was that because the jingle business took you on traveling, or you decided to travel?
No, the traveling started with going to Japan. Was my first live sound gig.
Right.
But that was from a record. I finished the record, then they said, would you do they're going to do a tour in Japan, would you do the live sound?
Yeah, but after Record Plant shut down and when you were freelancing, you were traveling a little bit, you said. Did the jingle business take you traveling at that point?
No,
Oh, okay.
I would travel to 46th Street, between 8th and 9th Avenues. That's where I'd...
Now, first thing that pops in my mind, here you are, the chief engineer at Record Plant. Do you see the writing on the wall throughout the years as the business changed and as technology changed? And did you see that studio, that was going to be a thing of the past eventually?
Not really. The change, I guess when it finally hit the general public, it kind of seemed like it was a sudden change. But, being on the inside and being in the business, you see they're trying out this digital recording, and, so it was kind of a slow, gradual change, I would say.
And so why'd they go out of business, you think? Just bad business practice, or just?
Well, the owner, who was a good friend of mine, Roy Sakala, he was in Brazil. He liked it in Brazil, and usually that's not a good remedy, a good formula for having a successful business.
Yeah, long-term relationships don't usually work, right?
Right.
So what are you doing nowadays, man? I mean, you throttling back, or are you revving back up?
Well, I just came. I spent a couple of days out in East Hampton last week with Rick Davies, who was the lead singer and the Wurlitzer player in Supertramp. And so I'm just we're going through some things. He's kind of just figuring out what he wants to do with some old recordings. So I'm doing that. I do my own stuff, composing. I don't even know what you'd call it. I've been calling it short stories for the ears.
Oh, that's really
it's like
cool.
a little. I'll send you a. It's
That'd
not
be great.
Nothing I could play you here that you'll hear, but I'll send you a little sample.
That's awesome. And tell me about them.
It'll start out with like a loop, some kind of drum loop, and then maybe you'll hear a dog bark in there, and then a helicopter will come flying by, and then it'll morph into maybe just some seashore. All the rhythm will go away, and it'll be just some ambient sounds. Rain, maybe it's just raining or a thunderstorm. And then the rhythm will come back, and then, they're about 5 minutes long.
That's so super cool.
So,
now, what's you're doing it obviously because of your passion of creating this, but is there like a end process for that or an end goal with those?
No, I get my end goal as I do it because I'm doing it for fun. And it's just recently, in the past couple of weeks, I've been looking to see if there was some avenue for this because I've got over an hour's worth of this stuff. So but if nothing happens, I have fun doing it. That's what I've been doing for fun.
Dude, put it on Spotify or iTunes.
Yeah, maybe I will.
Yeah, I mean, all it is, if you wanted to give you an idea, like on what I do, how I do it, and a lot of people do to get it out to most places with one click. You have a hosting site, right? I use Libsyn, it's called. I post on there, and it goes out to like 17 places at once.
Oh, okay.
And there's some services out there because of the amount of content that I put out. I have to have one that can host and deal with that kind of content. But if you're only putting out a little bit of content, there's some free stuff out there as well. Like I only pay like $30 a month, dude. It's not like going to break the bank, but
yeah, a friend of mine just gave me a site to go to today, and I wrote it down, but I can't think of it right now. So I'll check it out. But I'll send you one, and maybe if you've got some ideas for me, I'll take you up.
Oh yeah, I'll throw you some ideas.
All right.
That sounds like fun, dude. I'm always about that kind of thing. And then, what are you guys up to these days? Any big traveling plans?
Well, Colleen, my wife, will probably, as you know, probably go out to Montana to visit her mom, probably in July sometime. I haven't been going the last few years just because, she just sits down in the kitchen with her mom and they just yak for hours and hours. And I'm usually in the next room sleeping anyway. So this way she stays at her mom's house and she gets to spend more time with her.
Right. Yep. We've had that done. Val and I have done that in the past. I'm like, no, you go do that for that exact same reason. That way you don't have to worry about me. I'm fine. I'll do whatever, but there's really no reason for me to be there.
Yeah. And Chinook, Montana, there's zero to do there.
But that metropolis, there ain't nothing to do over there. And not even you don't ride horses, shoot shotguns, and
no. There's about 18 and 19 people in the whole town.
How old?
Go ahead. What?
Oh no, is her dad still alive?
No. He
it's just
passed.
her mom. Yeah. Your parents still alive?
No. My dad passed in '87, and my mother died in 2002. Yeah,
my mom passed 4 years ago. Man, it's a blessing that Val talks to her mom, and I listen to them. I can hear them throughout the house talking, and that's a blessing, dude, to be able to still talk to your parents.
Yeah. Although, but there's a time, when have a full life and you're starting to suffer and your quality of life goes down the tubes, it's kind of a blessing to leave, and
You and I share the same thing on that.
yeah.
Pull the plug, dude. I'm out.
Yeah.
I don't no. And it's the quality of life of your family members and stuff as well.
Sure.
Like if they got to sit there and take care of you, nah, dude. And my mom was the same way before she passed. She's like, this is once I get to line X, all done. Don't worry about me. Send me on my way. And that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah. My brother and I have a deal. I always tell him, I'll give you your pill when you want it. And when I ask for my pill, give me my pill.
There you go. That's the way to go, right? I always think that the best way to go, like you just don't wake up, right?
Yeah,
you fall asleep and you don't wake up.
That's the best.
What's your thoughts of being back in the 60s and 70s? What's your thoughts of what happens when we die, dude? You got any thoughts on that?
No, nothing happens. It's
nothing happens.
Black. It's black. It's like when you go to sleep. That's it. That's what I'm thinking anyway.
Yeah, that's it, huh? Lights out, and you don't even know what happens anymore, and you're just going, I guess like when you go to sleep, yeah. Huh.
I guess. I mean, I went to, my first 8 years was in Catholic school. And of course, they wouldn't go along with that line of thinking, but I'd probably get a beating for talking like this.
Yeah, but, sure.
Did you go to Catholic?
No. I had some buddies that were growing up. Their parents were hardcore. They, had to go to church every Sunday and then during the week as well, church class and all that. And I talked to my mom growing up about it, and we talked about multiple different religions and what do you think? Because I used to have these crazy nightmares every Christmas Eve. I would be in cold sweat thinking that when you died, you got thrown in the ground, but you were still alive. Like you knew that you were down there, right? Oh. And here I am like 8 years old thinking of this shit, right? So my mom's like, nah, man, you're gone. That's it. You're there's nothing. There's nothing. And I'd be like, what about God? And she, we'd have that conversation. But no, I just think that I've come to terms that you're on a different plane. You're gone. Like, there's some other plane that you're on that you don't even realize that you're there, and you don't even realize you're gone. So.
The nuns used to scare the shit out of the kids. They would say, do you ever feel like when you just prick your finger with a needle, how much that hurts? And then they would say, can you imagine if you went in hell and you were consumed with this fire and you were actually burning up? And then they would stress that it would be for eternity. It would never end. And everybody, all the kids were like, horrible. I got a good education out of it, that school, I must say, but it was mostly out of fear.
Well, fear is definitely a driver of a lot of things.
Good motivator, yeah.
Yeah, motivator. How was the drug scene back in New York City in the 60s and 70s, 80s?
It was thriving and doing well.
I love that answer. What was your one of choice?
Well, I tried pretty much everything, but I used to smoke a lot of weed, and then for staying awake, there was speed for a while, and then that morphed into cocaine, which seemed like nothing. It didn't even burn when you snorted it, so it seemed like nothing. But it was, all very addicting. And I used to, there was a period I went through, I used to also take opium. We would smoke it. You get a little piece of it, you put it in a spoon, you light it, and with a straw, you inhale it. And then if I would get like 2 down, then I would take some speed. And then one day I realized, wait, what am I doing? I'm going back and forth. If I didn't do anything, I'd be just right. I'm always trying to counteract where I got to. So, but that didn't stop me from doing it just then, but ultimately I stopped.
Is that what you just kind of leveled out and said, you know what, I'm done? There wasn't like a traumatic experience that you said that made you pull the plug on it?
Well, I stopped doing cocaine just because it was just so horrible to come down from it. That wasn't fun. And I continued to smoke pot after that, but even pot, you're not really here for that, so both Colleen and I both stopped doing that.
So when you were, I imagine you spent an amazing amount of hours in the studio with these bands and working, and do you think that, or was speed and those kinds of drugs a necessity you felt to keep going and to keep working those many hours, or was it just like, this is what we do because this is recreation and we're having a good time?
Yeah, it was more of an excuse, I think. Everybody was doing it, so that kind of lend itself to it. But, what we would find is we'd stay an extra 2 hours from up until 5 o'clock in the morning. Whereas if you went to sleep and you came back the next day, you'd accomplish that in 15, 20 minutes in what took you 2 hours to do the night before.
Sure.
So it didn't really, it was more of an excuse to just, to stay there and do whatever we were going to do. And like I said, because everybody else was doing it too. And it was, I'm not going to lie, it was fun back then.
Opium, that was one I never even thought of. Coke was our drug of choice back in the day. We ripped through so much of that, and it was just incredible. And I had a great connection, and I'm like, I don't know how y'all afford this. I've got a great connection, and I can't hardly afford it, and I make really good money. But that, and I went on a trip once, and I did not have somebody handling me very well, and it scared the shit out of me, Jay.
An acid trip, you mean? Oh, yeah, I've done a lot of that.
Yeah, it sent me, I was scared shitless. And that was not, and it was so real. It was, well, yeah, as you know, but we had one guy, he was all about it all the time. And we were driving around the city after hockey practice, and we came down this hill, and it was a bridge over the highway, kind of like going over 280, right? Or, big highway. And he freaked out, and he screamed and hollered and like jumped in the driver's seat and like told the driver, you got to stop because the bridge was gone. And we could not convince him that the bridge was there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had to go around, and we had to calm him down. It was crazy, dude. Yeah, man. So I can imagine the stories you have, but that was just part of the scene, like you said, right?
Yeah.
I just went along with it, and these guys and girls obviously too, but these guys would coming through with the music. It almost have to be intoxicating, their passion that they would have for their craft. Do you think, when they came in, they just loved it so much? Did you find that out? Is that true?
Love the music?
Yeah, they just wanted to. No, music. They just wanted to make music. They were so passionate about it. That must have been intoxicating to be around some of those people.
Yeah, even before a lot of the rock and roll stuff that I was doing, that's when I was involved with these other guys like the Brecca brothers, these guys that are become like, icons, and generally all the session players. They used to play on all the sessions for, when Sinatra would come in the studio, there would be a group of guys that would always get hired, and a lot of these guys were my friends back then, so they, and like I said, I would offer them the free time on the weekends and would come in and do it, and they were definitely passionate about their craft, and whether it was arranging or just playing, and it was just fun for me, and it still is.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
can
get
tell.
I get to hear music every day,
Yeah.
and then I get paid at the end of the day.
Even better, right? I get paid to do what I love doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is your favorite instrument?
Well, I play vibes. I don't play too much anymore. I was just playing a little while ago. But I guess drums. I like drums. I like to record drums. That's always been a passion of mine.
And then what? Like I imagine you saw some incredible. I guess I would call them behind the scenes, like somebody just jamming in the studio between sessions and stuff. You probably got.
That's what we would do on the weekends when I would invite my friends.
Yeah.
They would just come in and jam and play. We'd come in like on Friday night and leave on Sunday.
That's awesome, dude. And then you jump in on the jamming too? You'd play instruments?
No, I just record.
I
was just starting to become an engineer, a senior engineer, what they call a senior engineer. Because when I first started working at that studio A&R, I used to cut records. I used to be a mastering engineer.
So like actually make a record?
The cut it. It was like a blank disc, and then there was a lathe that would actually cut the grooves in the disc.
No shit. I knew that obviously there was a way to make them. Now would that be like a master record and then they would make copies from that, or you would cut every one?
No. For something that's going to be mass produced, you do this master. They send that to the pressing plant, and I don't want to say anything that's not 100% correct, but at some point they make a inverted copy of that, which is a stamper. In other words, the grooves are sticking up instead of going down.
Sure.
And then they'll when they mass produce the actual vinyl, they'll just stamp out the other.
Oh, okay.
The discs.
All right. And then you saw from records to 8 tracks to cassette to CD, you've been through all that then, huh?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when I worked at that first studio, he had Les Paul's 8-track machine, a 1-inch 8-track machine. There was only 5 of them in the world then. And there was a company that made the 8-track cartridges, for the car. Mm-hmm. And they would come to me because they needed the masters made. The masters for those 8-track cartridges came from that 1-inch 8-track machine. I don't want to get too technical here, but they would make a big loop. A big loop out of that 1-inch tape, and they'd mass produce those 8-track cartridges from that.
So
like in the middle 60s,
Yeah. So is a 8-track basically a big cassette? Is it the same type of technology?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, for that. Yeah, you could switch like on tracks 1 and 2 would be one song. Like the kind of stuff I was doing back then was Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. That was I
just love the names.
Those were some of the first 8-track that were out. So like on tracks 1 and 2 would be of the 8-track would be like a cassette, but just on the top part of the tape would be one song. Then when it would get to the end, you switch to the second song you want to hear, it'll come back to the top and it'll switch to tracks 3 and 4. There'll be another song there.
So all right. So all right, dude, I just figured this out. I never knew that. With an 8-track, so the wide tape that you see on an 8-track, there's a thin, like at the top is one track and then another track's underneath it, and it's 8 tracks on that one strip of tape?
Yeah, well, like regular tape, analog tape, still that they still record on these days, although it's not as common as digital now, is 2-inch tape. And there's 24 tracks on there. And you'll put like just a kick drum on one track, a snare drum on another track, vocal will go on one track. And that's what mixing is, where you put all of those sounds together and you combine it down to 2 tracks, which is what your CD is. Your CD is stereo, 2 tracks.
Yeah, sure. So you're telling me this 2-inch tape. Now, how would you when you mix it, how do you combine those 8 or those 24 tracks?
Okay, those 24 tracks get played back and they'll appear on a console, a desk.
Okay.
No, I can't do that.
That's all right. I'll Google some images and put them in there so people see it.
So it'll come up on faders, 24 different faders. And as you bring the fader up, it'll make that track a little louder. And then you have all different kinds of effects processing that you can do if you want to add some delay.
Right.
Or if you want to have a harmonizer.
You could add that. You could do all of these things.
And that's all on a 2-inch wide, basically like a cassette tape, an 8-track.
Well, it's not a cassette. It's a reel-to-reel.
Reel-to-reel.
And so that's what mixing is, combining all of those 24 separate tracks down to 2 tracks. And that's the way you do it. You make the decision, how loud should the snare drum be? How loud that tom fill?
Yeah.
And now with Pro Tools, there's unlimited tracks. I've mixed stuff over 100 tracks.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And then you would mix this 24 tracks together, and then you would record that on another tape or track?
Yeah, just a 2-track tape.
And then you would take that and make a record from it.
Correct.
Damn.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine the equipment that it took for all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that isn't the way it's done today.
No, of course not.
But as good as the digital got to sound, or has gotten to sound, it's still not as good as analog tape.
No. Oh shit! I just remembered this. God, I hope it's the right guy that quoted it. I think he was a guy from Led Zeppelin. But they asked him, I think it's Led Zeppelin. Anyway, they asked him about AI making a record. Right?
Yeah.
And his answer was, as soon as AI can destroy a hotel room, I'll listen to it. And I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah,
what a great answer. What a great answer.
Yeah, right.
But having somebody like you, knowing that, like, obviously, but, I knew that stuff was mixed like that, but not 24 tracks down to, and that. And you're going through each track saying, add it here, and then drop it, add up, down at each track.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, like, one song, how long would it take to mix?
Well, like when we used to do it, like an Aerosmith record, we were in the studio for like 3 months to record it and then mix it. Record it first and then maybe add some harmony vocals or some other tambourines. You can add, you could use up those 24 tracks. You don't record on all of them at first. You always leave some open to add a tambourine or, whatever, percussion, guitar solo, harmonies.
Now, when they were in the studio itself recording, did you record just the drums and then just the vocals and then you mixed it later, or did you have everybody like at a concert doing it all at the same time?
I like it all at the same time. That's when the magic happens. When you do it one at a time, it's
right.
I don't like that.
Because you kind of feed off each other, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're all together. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's what I would think, that everybody, and then it might not be exact, but it's amazing.
That's right. That's a lesson that some of the best musicians have yet to learn. They'll go for that like Roberta Flack. She'll sing a vocal and it would sound amazing, and then she'll say, "Oh, let me try another one. Let me do another one." And then maybe after about 20 takes, she'll say, "Oh, let's listen to that first one again." And she'll listen to that first one and she say, "Yeah, that's the one."
Now, why would they do that? Perfectionist?
Probably. I worked with somebody, a young girl. I wanted to give her the experience of recording. So and it was like a chant kind of thing, but she played guitar and sang.
Okay.
So we recorded it. She wanted to change so many things while she was here. And I kind of thought that she was missing the boat. She wasn't listening. She was listening for perfection. It was true. She did have like a cold or something. So maybe her voice could have sounded better. Only she would know that.
Right.
But anyway, I gave her a mix that she could take home and listen to. And I said, do you love it? And she said, not really. I said, well, you know what you should do? Go into a studio up by you. She lives upstate New York, and do it until you love it. Months later, she sends me an email and she says, I listened, I redid it and I listened and I liked the way my voice sounded. But then I listened to what I did at your studio and it made me cry.
Oh, well, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah, emotions, right? Now, why do you think that is? It just because maybe you, with your experience and the way you handle a client and what you know about mixing, they feel comfortable and they let it out, to where she went to like a cookie cutter studio and they're just like, here you go, record. All right, you're good. See ya.
Yeah. Well, it was in the performance. I've also done a thing where a friend of mine, who's a great singer and writer, he said, I just wrote another song. Could I do a demo up at your place? I said, sure, come on over. And he played guitar and sang. And I thought it sounded amazing. And he said, okay, now let me redo the vocal. And I looked at him like he's crazy. And we did about 5 tracks of vocals. And we even combined the best of each track. That's the other thing that you could do.
Yep.
And we listened, and I said, let's listen to that first one again. And we listened, and it was like night and day difference.
Oh.
And then I have a little keyboard here. He put like a little bass part on, and then like a pad, some strings. And I had him do some other guitars on it. But within 3 hours, we were all done. And it sounded so good that a couple of years later, a mutual friend, he wanted, this singer wanted myself and another mutual friend to produce his record. So we went in the studio and I said, hey, why don't we put that song that you did at my place, let's put it on the CD. And it stood up. It was, and we did it right in my house here,
Yeah.
And in 3 hours, the whole thing was done.
Jeez.
So it's not in the mixing. It all starts with the performance.
Sure. Well, good in is good out, right?
Yeah. You plant an onion, you don't get a rose.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm stealing that one from you.
You can write that one down.
Yeah, that's hell yeah, dude. I'm taking that one. That's a good one. Dude, you're just like, I got goosebumps, man. Listen to you talk about music, and I love music. And even listening to older stuff. And when I say to me older stuff, I'm a country music fan, right? So when I listen to like 90s country compared to what it is today, it's just, call me nostalgic or whatever, but there's just something different about it. And is that the way you think it's produced, or you think that that's where like media gets involved and they're like, that's what we think we want, and they put what do they call that? The auto-tune?
Yeah, that drives me crazy. That was the other thing that this guy wanted to do. He says, let's just put auto-tune on it. And I said, you're crazy. You know, it's those little imperfections. You know, that's where the magic is. When you make it perfect, it's sterile sounding. It's got no soul.
I love and part of the thing when I started this project, that during the interviews like this or during the conversations like this, I wasn't going to do any editing. And there has been some times where guests be like, they say something, they're like, "Oh man, like a guy I had in the military, and they were doing test pilot stuff. He's like, oh, dude, can you cut that out later?" And I'm like, absolutely, right? But like hearing your dog breathe and hearing us pause for a second while we collect our thoughts, and I just like that. I think it's human, right?
Me too.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of audio is good, but it's also, I like what you said about being sterile. When it's that perfect, it's sterile. Oh, yeah, I like that.
I don't like it. You know, some people will take out every little breath and any little lip sound and stuff on a vocal. It's natural, and I like it.
Do you think that's why acoustic music is so popular, when it's kind of like the quote unquote uncut? Because I remember when that stuff started coming out back in the day, it was like the biggest thing. Did you hear this guy's uncut song?
Yeah. Well, it's refreshing. You know, it's nice to hear something it's a little different.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You have to come over here. Come with Val. You know. Dude,
I would love to. I'd be like in a candy store, dude, with probably all your stuff.
I have a lot of candy here.
You got to send me some of those little tracks, dude.
I'm going to send you. I'll send you a couple of them.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Listen with headphones.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, you'll hear more subtleties that way. Yeah. So, I mean, everything sounds better with phones anyway.
Oh, is that you? That old school you talking?
Yeah, you know, it shouldn't sound wrong anywhere. If you do a good mix, it shouldn't sound wrong anywhere. As a matter of fact, a test that we used to give it in the studio was the through the door test. You play back a mix and you go out in the hallway, you close the door. And if it doesn't sound good through the door, it's not good. There's something wrong with it.
No kidding. So that's pretty cool. And what I found out with mixing stuff for me with this is I have to have it on my speaker. I have external speakers for my computer. It's not, they're high quality speakers, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I have to, when I'm mixing my final track, basically, of the episode, I can't do it with my headphones, because when I was doing it with my headphones, it wouldn't sound right like when I heard it in my car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. The background music was super loud. Let me turn that down. But then when I play in my car, you can hardly hear the background music.
Yeah. Yeah. But it shouldn't sound wrong anywhere. That's really the only place that I might take exception to that is computer speakers. They have no low end at all. Right.
Yeah, but not even nowadays. These little ones that I have, they're pretty stout. But even then, you're saying.
Yeah. Well, you have what? Your
my computer speakers. They're little, but they're pretty good.
I mean, the ones like that are in a laptop.
Oh, no,
those speakers.
Or how about when I'm working out? I'm old school. I have headphones on like I do now. And these people wear the little earbuds.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, nah, dude, that's just not the same. Not the same.
The only time those things sound halfway decent is if you push them in.
Yes.
If you push them in, you'll hear some low end. Otherwise, you don't hear any bottom.
Yeah, and then through my questionable life decisions, my ears are a little weird, so the earbuds don't tend to stay in. So
yeah, me too. Yeah, I don't use them.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, back in the day, did you have headphones, or were you, like, when you were mixing, like, how would you listen to that?
The only reason why I got used to the headphones is like when COVID happened, Colleen was working from home. every day.
And you had to put them on.
So I had to put them on.
I love it. I love it. Dude, Jay, I like to keep these about an hour, buddy.
All right, good. So I guess
we're in an hour, but is there anything you want to add? Anything that you want to tell the people? You want them to go to anywhere to check out your stuff? You ain't got that set up yet, huh?
I have my website,
great.
j@jmessina.com.
Perfect. I'll put a link into that. You can have people definitely check that out. You'll
see some fun pictures there. Have you been to my website?
No, I'm gonna get
you should go. You'll see some more of those fun pictures there.
Nice, dude. What do you think of that picture? You like that picture, or you're like, I'm so over it?
I don't know which one. I didn't see the one you sent.
It's black and white. Let me see if I can see it. I'll show you real quick.
But on my website, I got some cool pictures with John Lennon and Yoko.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of Aerosmith.
Let me see.
Oh yeah. I've seen that. That was in London at Air Studios.
Oh, okay, all right. When I saw that, I was like, that is Jay. What? I love it, dude.
Yeah,
man. No wonder Colleen snagged you up. You rock and roll dude. But put those little clips on your website.
I don't know if I'll have to find out a way how to do that.
Who built the website?
I did. I just did it with WordPress.
There should be a plugin for audio.
This probably is. Yeah.
Yeah, put it on there and then drive everybody to your website, and then
Yeah.
I'll push them. I'll throw them out there, dude, in the world.
All right.
All right. Hey, man, thanks for.
All right, buddy. Yeah, this was fun, and I'll have. So, how can I
hang on
or hear this?
Hang on, just 1 second, and I'm going to stop recording, but we're going to chat after.
Okay.
All right, Jay. Thanks, buddy.
All right, man.
Jay is a cool dude, right? Man, that was a lot of fun hanging out with him. How about those stories from back in the day, New York City? Awesome stuff. Link is in the show notes to his website. Check it out. And also, he was talking about the little music clips he's been putting together. As soon as I'm done talking, I'm going to play that for you. Check that out. Going to get you out of here because I know you got shit to do, but don't forget, Composure, High Speed Daddy, Livery Sheet, my website. And remember, don't act cool, be cool. Till next time.
You out there? You listening?